Well, everybody, welcome to the very first ever 2 hour NXT episode that has ever premiered on WWE programming. This is September 18th, 2019 review of NXT. Ladies and gentlemen, did we get good wrestling? Did the Vincent Man curse move on and gravitate and infecting with his venom and poison by Vincent Man? Or did NXT continue to look like NXT when they were 1 hour? I will go on record to say this. They had somewhat of what they are before they went live on the USA Network and a little tad of WWE main roster type feel to it. Not that the wrestling was bad, because outside of one match on the entire card that was on for 2 hours, the show was not bad. The issue is commercials. Out of everything that people complain about WWE main roster, people say, oh, the wrestling is boring. The storylines have no build. They give no emphasis or logic to it. Now, granted, logic is definitely something that is needed in WWE main roster programming. But, folks, I gotta tell you, these commercials kill these shows. They kill them because they put too many commercials in the middle of the matches. If you go on the WWE Network and you watch some of the older episodes from back in 2003, 2004, and so on and so forth, you'll notice that a lot of the commercial breaks that they take in the show is actually done either before a match or after a match ends. Before a match starts or after the match ends. But the only time they've ever back in the day actually do a commercial in the middle of a match, if the match is like 15 minutes long. But if you got a match that's like, 5-10 minutes tops long, they didn't take a commercial break. Here in WWE's formula of television, live television, on the USA Network, or probably it'll be the same way on Fox. I hope it's different. You notice that you get a lot of commercials within the matches, which really kills the enjoyment and the actual fun of watching these matches from beginning to end. You start wanting to look at your cell phone when you're on commercials because you're bored out of your fucking mind from watching commercials. Who the fuck really cares to watch commercials at all? I threw the idea at my best friend Matthew, who I sometimes do the Random Wrestling Talk episodes. If you guys have not checked out any of my Random Wrestling Talk episodes, there are some episodes that me and Matthew actually do these shows together and co-host the show. It's a lot of fun and enjoyable. I'm thinking at some point me and him need to get that show back together at being hosted by both of us, because we did a really great job. It was fun, entertaining, very sick jokes that we made. So it was a lot of fun doing them. If you want to check out some of those Random Wrestling Talk episodes, or check out even the older ones back in the day, in my early portion of the time that I started this channel, I would recommend it. You'll get a lot of laughs and you'll enjoy the hell out of some of these Random Wrestling Talk episodes that we had. But let's go into the actual show. We kicked the show off with Triple H. Now, Triple H going ahead and doing what he normally does when there's a major NXT takeover event. There's been a couple of times where Triple H would kick off the show with him making a small speech to hype up the crowd and get them excited about what they're about to come upon and actually endure for 3 hours if it's a takeover show. In this case, of course, it was only 2 hours long. So he pretty much says this is NXT, does his normal stick about NXT, and really hypes up the actual brand itself, which was really good. Very good speech by him. It was only like less than a minute. I'd say about 30 seconds. which was nice. They didn't get to see Triple H's face that much on the show, which is good that he doesn't do stuff like that. But right after that, when he walks through the curtain, you see the entire audience in the small Full Sail arena. You get to hear the crowd very pumped and hyped up for this show. Very excited. They should be. I mean, they're fucking live. And it's a 2-hour show that they're getting to see all the way through from beginning to end. And this crowd was excited. And it did not feel like one of those Monday Night Raw or SmackDown episodes where the crowd sounds like they're fucking dead tired, as if they all want to take a nap or look at their cell phones and do absolutely nothing. You pay money to go see this. Raise your fucking voice. Have fun being there. Make funny chants. Joke around with the freaking wrestlers in the middle of their matches. Do something. And get into the show. If you're not into the show, why show up at all? I mean, quite frankly, I am getting very tempted to one day, no matter where the hell their big pay-per-view is, I don't know about WrestleMania yet, but I do know that at some point, once I settle on wherever I'm going to be at the end of this year, that I may go to any major show that I'm interested in and actually go to that city where they're at just to see the pay-per-view itself and just have a great time. And I just want to be able to scream, yell, have some fun. And that's something the audiences don't do at all. They don't have fun. They don't seem like they're enjoying the show at all, so why bother fucking going? If you're not a fucking wrestling fan, what's the point in going to the freaking shows to begin with? So you can make your kid happy? Okay, great. Well, the kids don't seem like they're making a lot of noise either. So, quite frankly, the shows on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown are a joke. NXT being in Full Sail University, they were still as pumped as they normally were on the network. So we kicked off the show with Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, and Mia Yim. Out of all the four women in this matchup, all three out of the four had an opportunity to face Shayna Baszler for the Women's Championship. So at this point, the only person logical enough that they could go with that's a new challenger is Candice LeRae. And from what I've heard from the top podcasters like JD from New York and a couple other people, they're mentioning Candice LeRae should be the person to win or at least face Shayna Baszler. I don't see Candice LeRae as a real threat to Shayna Baszler's NXT World Championship. I see her in the element of being the ultimate underdog, like a Rey Mysterio type situation, but not pulling off the victory. Shayna Baszler is a real big attraction for the women's division. They need someone who is going to be legit. The only person I can see right now that is even probably remotely going to be anywhere near this women's division in NXT that would challenge for the championship would be Rhea Ripley. And if they were to throw Toni Storm in there, she would be a great opponent for Shayna Baszler. But Candice LeRae, she's great at what she does. For what she is very limited because of the fact of her height and so forth. And that's no discredit to her. But as a performer and comparison of size and attributes, Candice LeRae is not a believable opponent to beat Shayna Baszler. Kairi Sane, on the other hand, I felt that even though she was smaller to Shayna Baszler, she did have a moment of beating Shayna Baszler at a time that Shayna Baszler wasn't the best at what she was doing. She has evolved into a really great wrestler, Shayna Baszler. And she's taken a lot of her MMA skills and applied it to her wrestling skills that she puts into the ring work that she does. So that is where Shayna Baszler's at. Candice LeRae is not a person you want to put the title on, not to, be disrespectful to her and say, hey, she don't deserve to win. It's just based on the fact that Shayna Baszler is so good and such a technician wrestler and legit wrestler, you can't take the title off of her for Candice LeRae. You need someone that's the same height as her, strong as hell. Rhea Ripley is that person. She's the more believable opponent, I feel, should win the NXT Women's Championship from Shayna Baszler. But they did a little bit of a logic issue there with her last week where she just gets disqualified with a deliberate chair shot to Shayna Baszler in the middle of a match that could have granted her an opportunity to actually be a number one contender here tonight. But unfortunately, they didn't go that route, so that left her in kind of a jam to even be anywhere near the NXT Women's Championship. So that's pretty much that whole situation. But the match itself, the Fatal 4-Way, was fun as hell to watch. Candice LeRae did well. Everyone in the match really worked well together. I have no complaints. The match itself was a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely outstanding, entertaining shit. We then get this match with Cameron Grimes and Sean Maluta, who charges in on Cameron Grimes and gets a fucking pop-up stomp and then gets a pinfall and wins 1-2-3. This match sucked. Who the fuck cares? Cameron Grimes is a joke. I don't really care for his gimmick, his look, or anything about him. I didn't care for him in Impact Wrestling either, so it didn't really matter to me. From there, we got the main event, which took up about 30 minutes of the rest of the show. Deservingly so. They should have made that the case. But this match had about 2 or 3 commercial breaks right in the middle of the match. Now, let me ask you guys this question. If you're going ahead and you're sitting there trying to enjoy this match, and then you're getting commercials coming left and right at you, do you really pay attention to the commercials, or do you start playing around with your cell phone? I'm one of those people that will play around with a cell phone when there's a commercial on, which then makes me lose interest or focus on what's on my television. My point being is, the WWE Network does not need any network programming like USA or the fucking Fox. The only reason why they need them is for the sake of making money. As for a entertainment standpoint, and for us, it doesn't really do us any good. It doesn't keep us interested in the matchup if you got us going through commercials 2 and 3 times in the middle of a 30-minute match. That's just bullshit. You should have given us a commercial before the match and a commercial near the about like midway through the match. That's it. The match should have went 15 minutes, then a commercial break, and then the last then that would have been the last commercial break, and you have the last 15 minutes close out the show. That's how that whole thing needs to be. If they could get it like that, great. If not, the shows are very hard to deal with so many commercial breaks. It really wears on you and really makes you not interested in the fucking show that's being presented to you in the beginning. So that's the downside about commercials, especially in the middle of the matches. I don't have a problem with before a match and after a match for a commercial, but right in the middle, that is my issue with it. And they tried doing something about that, and they just didn't succeed with that. They kind of failed. I appreciate that they tried to do something about it so people wouldn't lose interest in the middle of the commercials and keep people interested in seeing the match from beginning to end. But I don't understand what the big deal is about these commercials, why they can't just have the commercials before a match begins and after the match ends. If it's a longer match, I understand, throw a commercial break right in the middle of the match, and that is it. you don't need to throw any more commercial breaks after that. So that's just me. Maybe AEW has a better way of doing it. Hopefully their format's better than this because it sucked. And this match, unfortunately, was that case. It had 2 or 3 commercial breaks with Roderick Strong and Velveteen Dream for the NXT North American Championship. The match itself, pretty good. Wasn't bad. Wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad. Pretty much it could have gone either way. I mean, the ending was the major hype point of this matchup because you really thought that Roderick Strong was going to win this match cleanly, and unfortunately, he couldn't put away Velveteen Dream. He needed the rest of the Undisputed Era to get involved in this matchup to help him win that North American Championship to close the deal on the Undisputed Era being draped in gold. That was the major issue, but when you go back and think about it, maybe an initial standpoint when you watch the match, you kind of say, wow, that really sucks. They kind of just fucked up the ending, in my opinion, blah, blah, blah. But when you really look at it, it really helps Velveteen Dream in the long run because it makes him look like he's an unstoppable competitor that won't give up. And it was just a numbers game that got the better of him, which can happen to any normal performer. So you can take that into consideration before saying this match absolutely sucked. But it made Roderick Strong look like the weak link because if you look back on all the matches that occurred for the Undisputed Era gaining the championships in NXT, he's the only one that needed a group help. So you're not really helping out Roderick Strong, you're just helping out Velveteen Dream in this situation. So I mentioned this, I didn't even think last year. They had the tag team with Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly. He was making some mistakes within that matchup, and he almost cost them several different occasions the tag team titles. Now it's totally different, and he's just a single competitor on his own. And this matchup did not display him at his strongest point of his career. He really did not come across as one of the guys that belongs on the Undisputed Era. He really is just a weak link on their team, which I think eventually they need to get rid of him, move him out, but that may also hurt him because I don't know if he would get lost in the shuffle of things creatively. So him being part of the Undisputed Era really helps him out. But the way they presented him in this matchup really didn't help him in the sense of being a real believable champion. I don't see Velveteen Dream staying the North American champion for very long. I think maybe he'll probably lose it at some pay-per-view, probably by January. I think he'll lose the championship by the Royal Rumble weekend. I think that's when it's going to be. But yeah, Roderick Strong wins by pinfall with the end of Heartache to win the North American Championship with a bit of interference from the Undisputed Era. We kick to the WWE Network, where we have the second hour. Holy fuck, what the hell? Yeah, this transition really blows. I don't like the idea that you have to watch the first hour on fucking USA Network and then the second hour on fucking WWE Network. I kind of think that you're better off just having it on WWE Network for 2 hours straight, and then when you're ready to be able to put it for 2 hours on the USA Network, that's when you should do it, because having them split up, it just feels kind of stupid to be swapping back and forth. Anyway, so we get on to the WWE Network. We kick off the show with Pete Dunne and Arturo Ruiz. This guy, Arturo Ruiz, is actually a performer I've seen once before as an enhancement talent who does a very good job at making the other talent look very good at what they do. He does have competitive matches, unfortunately, though he loses every single time so far from what I've seen. I think he's wrestled this is his third match he's ever had from what I've seen. or maybe more than that. I'm not sure. Just depends on if I watched him wrestle at one point or another. But this match was pretty damn good. To kick off the show, I mean, Pete Dunne had a little bit of trouble with Arturo, but at the end he made Arturo submit with the hold that he's now using, where he grabs the opponent's fingers and kind of just snap them. Oh wait. Dunne sidesteps a drop kick and hits it. Enziguri suplex lift into a triangle choke, rolling around, breaking Arturo's fingers. And the referee D.A. Brewer calls it. Okay, so the referee calls it because he starts to tap out thanks to the breaking of Arturo's fingers. So that's pretty much how this match ended. So yeah, like I said, this matchup was pretty damn good. I had no complaints whatsoever about it. It was a nice way of kicking it off on the second hour of the WWE Network. So I have no complaints on that one. Then we had Aaliyah versus Ia Lee. This matchup sucked dick as fuck. This was the match that sucked the worst, because even though the match flowed very well for a while, there was a humongous botch by Xia Li. She went ahead and tried to do a top rope maneuver, and she completely botched what she was trying to attempt to do. She ended up kind of falling backwards on her neck. Well, not really on her neck, but on her back. She kind of tripped up on the top rope, and the whole match just got fucked up. I mean, you could even see in her face, she was like, oh, god dang it, I fucked up. Pretty much. There was a fan that went ahead and was like this. I totally agreed with the fan on that sentiment. This match gets no comment from me. Bullshit match. Didn't really matter. Sucked dick. We also were supposed to have a match with Kushida. Kushida was supposed to have a matchup, and this matchup was actually stopped because of Walter, the WWE UK champion, and his faction called the Imperial, or the Imperium. They went ahead and started taking over NXT for a small period of time in the middle of the show. Pretty much, the whole statement of Imperium by Walter was that we are wanting to get respect back in professional wrestling, in this sport. He called wrestling a sport. Not even sports entertainment, a sport. He says it's enough of the sideshow clown type gimmicks, the whole idiotic bullshit that goes on in professional wrestling. He said it's time for this sport to get serious. And anyone that wants to disrespect it, they are going to destroy. I like the freaking comment. I like the little promo he did. It was very solid, straight to the point, and he sounded intimidating somewhat. I don't think any normal person would want to pick a fight with this guy. Unless they have a 2x4, a gun, or a knife. That's all I gotta say on that. This guy is not somebody you want to pick a fight with your hands. This guy is a tough son of a bitch. And a very tall one at that. So you'd have to be a fucking heavyweight. Like a Lennox Lewis or a Devontae Wilder or Tyson Fury type shit. You'd have to be those kind of guys to be able to pick a fight with this guy hand to hand. Otherwise, if you're just some small guy like myself who's 5'6", you ain't winning shit. Let me just put it that way. And Walter has that kind of aura to him that he is a stiff, stern person that in retrospect would just kick your ass if you disrespect him. That's what I get from looking at his body language and everything else in between. Kushida, though, does pick a fight with Walter, because Kushida was supposed to perform in this matchup, but he stopped that from happening. Kushida came out, and we saw somewhat of a small taste of what to expect if they decide to move forward with Walter and Kushida in a one-on-one match. I would love to see Kushida get an opportunity for the UK Championship. If Tyler Bate got a one-on-one match with Walter for the UK Championship and was able to have a fucking 5-star plus classic with him, from what fans are saying, because I have never seen the match, which I'm going to probably check out this weekend just to see what everybody's been ramping about for a match that goes 45 minutes long, which is pretty impressive, actually. You don't see that happen in WWE too often at all. But quite frankly, if Tyler Bate can have a kind of match that people are talking about with Walter, I don't see why Kushida can't have the same exact thing. Kushida is probably by far a better wrestler than Tyler Bate is, and at the end of the day, they're saying that Tyler Bate and Walter had a great match. Well, Kushida probably could have a better match, because I think Kushida is a better wrestler than Tyler Bate is. I mean, Tyler Bate's not a bad performer, but when you come to fucking Kushida had one of the best matches in freaking Ring of Honor and New Japan Wrestling. He's a multi-time junior heavyweight champion in New Japan Wrestling. And he's won multiple titles in Ring of Honor. So, I don't care what anyone says. Kushida is the fucking shit. And he would be a great opponent for Walter to face. I think that people would clamor over this match and be super excited to watch it from beginning to end. Now, we move on to Lio Rush and Orny Lorcan. Orny Lorcan and Lio Rush had the best match of the fucking night. The best match of the night. Hands down, I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Probably the match of the freaking week, I think. Because SmackDown and Raw were on producing shit for wrestling. This was the best. The best match you'll see all week long. I don't know what happened on 205 Live. I don't really care. I don't watch NXT UK, so I don't know what happened on those two shows. They're probably only two shows that can compete with this matchup itself on anything that they had go on either one of those shows. But from what I've watched between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, this was the best match. Lio Rush and Orny Lorcan topped everything. They were on spot with everything. They got the fans excited. You had a fucking ruckus blockbuster type of match that was made important. It made the 205 Live brand seem important. Like, hey, maybe you ought to take a look at what 205 Live has to offer, because what these two guys produced was freaking outstanding. I enjoyed watching this from beginning to end. Lio Rush performed at a high level. I mean, he reminded me of Ricochet when Ricochet was in NXT. I mean, if you had Ricochet in a tag team with anybody, Ricochet would be it. These two guys would have blended well together as a tag team. Lio Rush, on his own, fantastic. I don't ever want to see him as a manager for anybody. I don't care Bobby Lashley. I don't care if it's Seth Rollins. I don't care if it's Brock Lesnar and he takes over Paul Heyman's job. He is fucking great. There ain't no reason why this guy can't be a wrestler. There ain't no purpose for him to be a manager to anybody. He doesn't need to take a step back. He needs to take a step forward. He could be possibly a major champion someday down the line in his career, like Kofi Kingston did just recently this year. That I honestly believe might happen someday if the cards play out for him. This match of the night, 5 out of 5 stars, hands down, great match. Enjoyed every second of it. Orny Lorcan, he did a great job in this match too. The last match, Killian Dane and Matt Riddle, was a street fight, and this just ended in just a horrible fashion. Matt Riddle has lost all kinds of momentum in my eyes. He is a guy that is being placed in a situation with Killian Dane that's going on for far too long, is not getting to the point and putting an exclamation point on this fucking rivalry already and put an end to it. There needs to be an end to this. You'd think that the street fight would have been that end. Instead, it ended up being a full-on NXT roster brawl that looked like as if you were getting prepared to go see a Royal Rumble pay-per-view in a few days. That's how freaking insane it was. Now, was it fun to see all the guys on the roster practically that was on this roster have a full-on brawl while the street fight was going on? Somewhat. It's always fun to see a chaotic ending to a show, but when you have a match like this that deserves some kind of closure to it, or at least an ending where two guys are competing to end their differences with each other, which should have been Matt Riddle's opportunity here. We didn't get that, so hopefully they go back to this matchup and have another street fight. Maybe they could just do a last man standing match at the NXT TakeOver War Games, which would be a great idea to use for this type of matchup, since they have yet to go ahead and complete one match that they've had with one another. I think that would be a great opportunity. So, not to say that this was a bad idea what they did to end the show, because it was the first time ever premiere. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that they could have given these guys an opportunity to close out their storyline rivalry and move on to do something else on their own. That's all I'm really saying. But they could have had this brawl happen after the match ended. You know, like, once they were going back into the arena, they could have had the brawl still going on behind the scenes where nobody could see it and people could still watch this match, and then have everyone come out and start having a brawl as well and do it that way. I think that would have been okay. But, again, I'm not the one who wrote the script. I'm the guy who's behind a camera giving you guys my opinion on what should have happened, or at least what I think should have happened, and maybe attract anyone's opinion on that and see if they think the same way as I do. But anyway, guys, leave your comments and opinion down below. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel, and I thank you very much for watching. Good night, guys.